There was a quantum story that came out the other day that I thought was really interesting. It basically showed that the performance of different QPUs and these guys. So this is the Jülich Supercomputing Center in Jülich, Germany. And these are the guys that bought, in case you don't know, everybody should know this name. These are the guys that bought the D-Wave computer. It's Jülich. So these guys are computing experts. You know, they have the most advanced technologies. They have the most, they're on the cutting edge. So to me, it's a bit cool. It's not, even though they wasted money on a D-Wave box, it's kind of cool. They basically are like, I've got every machine. I've got every advanced machine known to man. I've got a huge GPU cluster. I've got D-Wave. I've got IonQ. I've got every computer you can think of is here in this research center. So, that's kind of neat. And anyway, they did this benchmarking, and it did not go great for some of our stocks here. Let's take a look. Okay, so here are the computers they compared. They did not use the D-Wave box because the D-Wave box is not an actual quantum computer. Okay, we've got IBM. Their ticker is IBM. We've got Quantinuum. They are privately held, but they are majority held by Honeywell. Their ticker is HON. We've got IonQ. Their ticker is IonQ. Then we've got IQM, which is privately held. And we got Rigetti. Their ticker is RGTI. Okay. So they studied and tested all of these, kind of like what I did later this fall, but not as thoroughly. Of course, I tested the IBM boxes, and I tested the IonQ boxes, but I never tested the rest of them. And I'm not a computing expert like these guys. These guys are, one of the world's greatest centers for computing. I certainly can't afford the $15 million to buy a D-Wave box. It would be a waste of money, I'll say that. So, and they really know this stuff. So they did it, and here are their conclusions. It was really interesting. No, we have longs all the time. ADMA, IBVD doubled after I talked about it. I should talk about it again. I should buy it and then talk about it. So we do longs. ADMA's at $20. I like Gilead. We started off the live stream with Zoom. This was 6 months ago. We did ZM. That went up a bunch. Tarsus doubled or tripled. So, I found this paper on Archive. ARXIV. Its number is 2502-06471. Yeah, so we pick longs, but right now the market's a little frothy. All right. So what do they say about all these computers? Here's the conclusions. Okay. In this work, we've presented a benchmarking protocol for QPUs, quantum processing units, that pushes the limit of the execution of quantum circuits in terms of the number of qubits, which is the width, and the number of 2-qubit gate layers, that's the depth. And this is really important because what I discovered is this depth thing is very limiting, and you cannot do too much with the depth that you create for these circuits. All right, it is based on fixed parameters of QAOA protocol known as the LR-QAOA. We test a protocol with 19 different QPUs from 5 vendors using 3 graph topologies. Nobody's done anything this thorough. The test passed if the optimization protocol can be distinguished from a random sampler. We show that we can make the distinction with a small number of samples, which is helpful for QPUs where the sampling cost is considerable. The benchmark is also stable in time. We find that the coefficient of variation in an experiment repeated 5 times in a lapse of 2 months is 1%. To the best of our knowledge, this is the largest benchmarking implementation by the number of QPUs involved, which also indicates their practicality and usefulness. For the first topology, which is a 1D chain, our main test involves as a linear chain. Our main test involves 100 qubits on different IBM devices. The other machines don't have 100 qubits. We find the best results in IBM FES, with a performance peak of R is this and PF is that, involving 1,700 gates, and using fractional gates of this and that involving 1,400 gates. It's like 3,000 gate circuit. In the NL case, IBM FES shows the best performance for 156 qubit problem involving 2,000 gates, 2,000 CZ gates, and 2640 ZZ gates. So that's about 5,000 gates. I was trying to run circuits with 15,000 gates and they didn't work. And this is really important, guys, because to do Shor's algorithm. You can't do that with less than 15,000 gates, true Shor's algorithm with like a big number. So you end up having a real hard problem, you know, actually using these computers for anything interesting. So I think if you actually looked into QAOA, you'll find that this is all big LARP and that you could do this on your laptop. But let's pretend this is really advanced, cool stuff. So this 20 qubit problem, they did on 1710 gates. Again, it's hard to make a really good circuit with 1,000 gates. It's kind of pathetic. Our largest successful LRQOA implementation is a 56 qubit problem with 4,620 ZZ gates on Quantinium's computer. Impressive. Again, I whenever I tried to up the number of that I'm trying to factor with Shor's, I ran into this problem where there weren't enough gates. I couldn't make enough depth, circuit depth. Even the qubit amount didn't matter. The circuit depth was the problem. And this is going to plague these companies for a long time. In my opinion, it's going to be very, very hard because remember, these gates have error rates, right? So let's go back to this and try to understand this better. You have a circuit for 4,000 gates, okay? Remember, even with 999, right, 3 nines of fidelity, the chance that you are going to have a successful, all 4,620 gates work is only 1%. Now you add another 9, we're at 63%. Do you see how cool this is? So when the quantum companies talk about fidelity, right, that's the likelihood that it's actually doing the calculation right, and that's a 2 qubit gate. Now we know what a 2-bit gate looks like, an AND gate. So if 1 and 0, okay, does anybody know the answer to this? Pretty easy. This is a basic Boolean algebra. 1 and 0 should be 0, right? 1 and 1 should be 1. And so the fidelity so far here is 100%. But if I did a 1 and 1 and it turned out 0, well, now my fidelity is 2 out of 3 because, yeah, my fidelity is 2 out of 3 because I got 2 right and 1 wrong. So their fidelity is 99. It's not this good actually, but it's about 99.99 or 99.9, depending on how you want to look at it. Okay, so great, you have somewhat high fidelity. Now again, remember, transistor GPU, the fidelity is a lot higher. So let's say you had 99.99. Well, each gate, you know, just raising it to this power is not exactly the right way to do. But if any part of the calculation is wrong, where an AND gate gives you the wrong answer, the whole calculation's done because it's dependent on this being right. Now, assume that's the case, this will be right 63% of the time on 4,620 gates. But the more gates you do, the more fidelity you need. I mentioned I was doing a program with 15,000 gates, and it would never work. And part of the reason for that is because it was 99.9 fidelity. So it matters a lot. 99.95 also doesn't get you there. 99.96, 99.97. Finally, I get to 1%. And what's funny, Mr. Hassel is right. You do something called shots. So you do 1,000 shots or 4,000 shots, but you can't do 4 million shots. So the fidelity matters. So this is the circuit that was trying to just crunch and factor a million, you know, a 7-digit, 8-digit, you know, 6, 7, 8-digit number, which a transistor-based computer can factor in a nanosecond, you know, a couple clock cycles, basically. You know, maybe a little bit more than a couple clock cycles, but it's going to be on the order of nanoseconds. So you don't average the result. You look for a peak that is unusual, and you get the answer. You can find the answer. So no, the point isn't that quantum's not there yet. We know that. The point is to look at the fidelity and to know what's coming. So let's say you had a 1,000,000 gate problem. And you can actually do this with Python. Write a small Python program, and you can actually count how many Boolean gates there are. It's not because the applications aren't there. The applications are there. I have an application called Shor's algorithm. It's there. I tried to do it. Shor's algorithm was the first. The Shor's algorithm was the first application. Shor's algorithm created the quantum computing industry. Because when Peter Shor said, I can factor RSA faster with Shor's algorithm than any other computer, everyone said, what? Are you telling me the 𝗕𝗏𝗡𝗍𝗓 algorithm of 1977 can be broken by your algorithm, sir? Yes, I'm saying that. Whew. That just sends chills down my spine. That's crazy. Mr. Shor, Dr. Shor, I have this big fat number called RSA 2048. Let's look at these numbers. Let me show you. Let me teach you a lesson you'll never forget. Ever forget. These are the RSA challenge numbers. These are the Glengarry leads. Ever since 1991, the smallest digit is 100 decimals. Okay? Remember, I was trying to factor a 7 decimal digit. 7! And I couldn't do it with the current computers in quantum. So they did a 100 decimal computer in 1991. And they offer prizes. $10,000, $20,000. You should do it. It's better than the lottery. And you have a challenge, and they'll pay you money if you can actually figure out what it is. So Dr. 𝗏𝗀𝗃, I'm a huge fan of, him and his brother came up with a lot of algorithms for factoring, including with elliptic curve cryptography. One of my favorite areas to study on the side. This is what me and my girlfriend do. So this is how many decimals. So you can see the progress of the factoring. 100 digits, 110. All these were broken. 94, 96, 99, 150 looked like it was out of order. 155, 160. Slowly, increasingly, people were getting better at factoring. There's some delays here sometimes. A lot of the Germans were doing it. 200 digits. 232 digits. That was not that far ago. Guy picked up $50K for doing that. 270 digits is still unclaimed. Still has not been awarded. So here's RSA 896. Oh, somebody did factor it? It looks like did somebody factor it or not? It has not been factored so far. Okay, there's the number. 270 digit number, 896 bits. I'm just trying to factor 7 bits. So the gates required to do this is enormous. And you can write any Python program and actually print out how many gates it is. So some of you guys know Python. You should be able to find, ChatGPT can guide you, how many Boolean gates are there in my Python program. And you can actually get a sense for how big do some of these programs need to do. It's not about the profits for this. It's about the technical capability of these. So these have not been factored. 300, 290, 280, 896, which is the bit number, 270, 260, 250 got factored. And they dedicated it to Peter Montgomery, who I also look up to quite a bit. Montgomery was the guy in this space. So this was just a few years ago. Pretty big announcement there. So factoring numbers doesn't have any real benefit. The point is that it is a major application. Cryptography is a major application of quantum computing. So the application is here right now, and the computers can't do anything about it. They don't work. So if you wanted to do a 1,000,000-digit number, well, a 7-digit number, it's kind of funny. I don't think this necessarily scales linearly, but maybe you would need 66 million gates. Let's see if you had, okay, so if this was for 7 digits, I needed a million or 15,000 gates. Maybe it's 2,000 gates a number. That's kind of a silly way to look at it. So a 270, okay, it's 540,000 gates. That's not a big program. How many would you need? How much fidelity would you need to do it correctly? A lot of people say 50 qubits, 50 logical qubits is enough. But at what fidelity? Not too far away. We're not too far away. That's 6 nines. We're not that far away from being able to factor RSA 270, possibly, exact numbers. RSA 270 on potentially a quantum computer, which would be a really big milestone. And I want my name in lights. I can afford to use a quantum computer, but it didn't work. It could only factor some really small numbers. It started breaking at 5-digit, 6-digit numbers. And by the way, my girlfriend went to the same school as Peter Shor and worked with a lot of the people at that school in the computation department. So we know, we know the space. A 500,000 gate program requires 6 nines of reliability. A 4,000 gate program requires 4 nines. Yeah, it's not for Bitcoin. It's not about being scared necessarily, because again, this is a 270 digit number. It's how many bits is that? It's like a 900 bits. Actually, that's not far away. That's a little bit scary actually. So RSA 2048, 617 digits. You break this, you are. Wait, no, here it is. 617, 2048 bits. 617 decimals, $200,000 cash prize, but NSA will pay you $200 million off the rip. That's off the muscle. I'll go straight to Trump and I'll say, listen, I need your NSA guy right now. What's this about, Mr. Shkreli? Need it right now. Get him to me. You'll see how important this is. NSA guy comes over and says, what's the meaning of this? The president invited me to this meeting. Listen, whatever your name is, I don't care. I can factor 2048 RSA. We've heard this before. Show me the factors. Here. One button on my cell phone. Mr. President, we've got a problem here. And that's how the movie starts. Get me in the signal. So 40 million gates, what fidelity do we need? We can actually do a logarithm to do this, but let's do it the old-fashioned way. Let's see. 5 nines. Oh, does 5 nines do it? Looks like 5 nines does the trick. All right, so the less optimized 2 billion gates. How are we doing now? Still not quite there. That's 6 nines. No, wait, that's 7 nines. This is 5 nines after the decimals. That's 7 nines total. A little more realistic. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is approaching transistor fidelity. So let me take this to a 5. And then finally, Rigetti is dead last. I mean, almost embarrassingly bad. It's only two nines. Second order of magnitude. Like disgustingly bad. So it took 5 to 10 years. It took 5 or 10 years to add 1 order of magnitude. Paper just came out. It's not about that. It doesn't matter whether or not people read the evidence. What matters is what's going to happen in the end. Is there a chance that we're going to get over because this stuff actually does work? Well, I hope that you feel that my math is right. And if it adds up to real life, that's for sure. It adds up to our experiments. So if it takes 5 to 10 years to add a 9, and so far that's been the case, it might come in one quantum leap, as they say, and it just happens overnight. But it seems like it takes some time to get that 9 in the next generation and another 9. So even if it's 3 years and we need 5, that's 15 years away. So, it might take some time. HIMS is kind of one of these things where it's like Uber. It's a little bit scammy and it's a little bit clever. So Uber basically decided that they didn't care about local municipalities and their laws, state law and that kind of stuff. And they said, we're going to offer a taxi service without asking anybody. It's just a new way we're going to do things. And of course, the local municipalities, if you went to them and asked this, no, you got to get all taxi registration, etc. Under no circumstances can you do this. And they just went ahead and did it. So HIMSS is sort of similar, but they're handing out medication, prescription medication, without much work. But maybe that's a good thing. And the same thing's happened in crypto. If you went to the SEC and said, hey, we're going to offer a crypto exchange, you're going to be able to change Bitcoin and cash and all this stuff, they say, absolutely not. We got to have 85 lawyers look at this first. We got to keep these guys employed. I mean, we got to make sure the consumer is okay. No, yeah, boy. I mean, I personally think we add a 9 in gate fidelity every 10 years. But in that there's actually a limit to how much fidelity you can have with qubits. It's very hard to get 9 gates because it's a quantum object. It's got the quantum noise, thermal noise, every type of noise can, mess up those gates. Because, we could easily get 6 or 7 nines of fidelity. We'd already have it. I mean, being able to buy Bitcoin is not a big deal. Everybody can buy Bitcoin. There's no barrier to buying Bitcoin. So it doesn't make GameStop more valuable because they're going to buy Bitcoin. Doesn't make sense.